Hey guys, good morning. It's a lovely Friday morning, and I am here with a big ass Sprite. Just having some digestive stuff going on. Not going to go into detail, just, something I ate just kind of bothered me a little bit, but I'll be alright. Anyway, guys, so I thought I would do another reflections video, continuing on with the romance or lack thereof. And all the stupid things I did and learned from. So yeah, how about that? I don't know. Anyway, like I said at the end of the last video, after the Charlene fiasco, I decided I'm not going to ask anyone out my freshman year. There were a couple of people I was attracted to and stuff, like girls in classes and off and on people here and there, but it was never it was always just kind of oh, they're cute, they're attractive, but it'd be yeah, I'm not gonna ask them out, because if it had been a situation where I was getting a lot of really strong signals that they were interested in me, then that would have been a different thing. But I was kind of all right, these women are friends. That's all this is gonna be. But as I started to say, really the only thing I did was. And this was my first show. I can't remember if I mentioned this or not. Did I? I think no, I did, because we stopped at 2000. That's right. So let me jump into that real quick. But as I said, my first show was Learned Ladies, and I was what the hell was my name in that show? I can't even remember. It was that memorable role. But no, I came out and broke a chair. But I remember there was a cast party, and it was the first time that I drank beer. I had a screwdriver once at Christy's house, but I never drinking beer, and unfortunately it was Heineken that I drank. Which I just, if you like Heineken, great. I did not like the flavor, but I drank it anyway. I think I drank one or two, whatever. But so anyway, basically first time being drunk and all that. And there's this girl named Claire Kemble who was there at the party, and she was she was attractive and stuff. And I'd been drinking, so of course this is the best time to approach a woman when you've been drinking at a party. But I remember Doug, my friend Doug, was talking to her, and this other guy, Tim Horvath, was talking to her and stuff like that. And so we were all kind of just talking, really. But I was, badly. I just remember something she had a boyfriend, I think. So I don't know why I was trying to even hit on her or nothing like that. I can't even call it hitting on. It was pretty pathetic, honestly. But it was I just remember a couple of things was just oh, my boyfriend's working, and I'm just I'd quit my job for you. I'm just what the fuck am I saying? I'd quit. Why would you quit your job? But anyway. And then I remember I said something oh, you can watch me come see the show and watch me make a fool of myself. And she's haven't I already seen that tonight? I'm touche, Claire, touche. Now, like I said, after that, I was really I think she was working at Myers, which is a store in Indiana. And I remember Christy ran into her. Christy knew her, of course. And I was so embarrassed. I couldn't even face her. But I saw her at another party, at the Halloween party, when I dressed up as Lurch and stuff. Thanks to Becky Arney, who suggested that. And yeah, and I saw her then, and it was totally fine. It wasn't a big deal. She wasn't creeped out by me or nothing like that. She just took it in stride, And like I said, I saw her many times. We were in classes together after that. And she was a very nice person. So like I said, it wasn't any big deal or nothing like that. It was just all right, this is how I'm going to enter college. I already talked a little bit about my grades the first semester. Now then we got to the second year. And I had, over the summer, I think I mentioned that I worked at the deli, and what a miserable experience that was. And that's why, when I cost myself my scholarship, that would have made me a made man. But oh well, life goes on. And then let's see, second year, So second year, let's say I did Love Rivers Lost, but I didn't do that yet, because I remember I was on probation for that semester, and I had to basically either get my grades up or pay them back the money for the scholarship. So that sucks, but it is what it is. The funny thing is, I didn't find out that I'd lost my scholarship until I'd missed the first night of auditions or something like that, because I had a really bad stomachache, and like I thought I was getting the flu or something like that. Didn't end up throwing up or anything like that. But in fact, I actually have a record. I have not thrown up since 1997 of August. So I've had a couple close calls with the food poisoning, but I didn't actually throw up. I came close, and once from drinking I almost did, but that's about it. But no, to knock on wood, I must say, hope to keep that record going. Although the woman throwing up in the bathroom at Walmart when I was making a return at the end of the day was not very pleasant. Maybe, I'm one of those people that if you hear someone vomit, it's like seeing it's even worse, but like hearing it's like. Anyway, off topic there. But anyway, I remember, and it was like I auditioned, and Randy just kind of had a perturbed look on his face. I remember, and like, so I was like, "Oh, what's this about?" And then I think Lois told me, I think it was Lois who told me that this is what. Yeah, Lois told me either I'd have to pay it back or get my grades up. And like I said, I did get my grades up. Like I said, I had a stagecraft class and all that stuff. And yeah, and like I said, my dad helped me outline things just because I really suck at technical things. And anyway, so just to tie in the female thing, the next poor victim, known as my not victim, but the next person on the list was Brenda Dover, and she was a nice, very very cool, very energetic, and very nice and all that. And my friend Dave Isman was dating her for a little bit, and then Aaron Smithers kind of sort of dated her. It was both were short lived. It was one of those things where like we had this. I hate to admit it, but we had this kind of thing when new freshmen would come in. It was like fresh meat, and like all the guys were like, "Oh, I'll go after that one," Totally mature attitude to have. Non-misogynistic in the slightest, right? But it was college. It is what it is. So anyway, yeah. We'd all kind of hunt out in groups and stuff like that. We'd go to lunches and stuff like that. And I was interested, but I wasn't sure how to approach it yet. And so as it went on, I remember she was assistant stage managing for, I think it was Beauty and the Beast. Yeah, because Doug was the Beast. Yeah, that's right. And who's texting me at this mortal hour? I'm doing a video. What? Hold on, let me see if this is important. Oh, okay. Not important at the moment. Anyway, so yeah, and I had this genius idea. Obviously, this is a lie, but genius idea where I would, I forgot. I think I got flowers and I got maybe a stuffed animal or something like that. And then I wrote this like secret admirer thing. I was gonna do the secret admirer thing, guys. This was clearly a good idea. Now let me show you guys an example of my handwriting here. Let me find it here. This is my handwriting, if you can see that. If you can read that, congratulations. So, granted, if you had seen that handwriting, you could easily tell who your secret admirer was. So anyway, I remember it was just like, I went there early in the morning because they had a morning show, and I just like dropped the stuff off there. And I forget who told me, but somebody's like, yeah, she didn't look too thrilled. I'm like, oh, great. And I remember I saw her, she came through my line at Myers, because I had gotten a job at Myers in November as a bagger and cart pusher. And we actually had a decent conversation, like just a quick, how's it going, And at first I thought she was going to bring it up. And so I was like, okay, maybe she's going to, say I wanted to go talk or something, but like, and then, it was friendly and all that stuff. And then, like, I can't remember how soon it was after that she gave me a note back. And unlike the notes that Charlene or others had given me, this one was just slightly blunt across the thing. Just like, this is not a good idea to do a secret admirer thing. And I forget all the details of it. Like I said, it was a long time ago. But, like, I remember I was very upset, though. Like, I felt like just demoralized by it. And then I was a total asshole, full admittance. I was a total asshole about it because we were at a party and I brought it up in front of everybody. And then I was just like, well, Brenda wrote me this thing and said, does everybody feel this way about me? And then it was pretty much just me trying to get like fucking, not really necessarily compliments, but just kind of to perk myself up. But I deeply regret that I did that to her. That was immature and stupid. Um, and I mean, like I said, it's all under the bridge now. But like, at the time, yeah, I don't know. I didn't handle it the best way. I took, it was one of those sad things where sometimes it's hard to hear the truth. It's hard to hear those tough, tough love type situation. And I think that it probably would have just been better if I had just asked her out and then gotten rejected. That would probably have been better because, then she wouldn't have had to have the right thing. And, it is what it is. But live and learn, people. Live and learn. But yeah, so I do regret that. And, I don't know if I ever actually apologized to her. I mean, everything was fine after that anyway. But it was tense for a few months. But then, things blew over, like I said. But I do feel bad about that. And I was in the wrong there. It was immature and I should have handled it better. So, but anyway, life goes on. Like I said, I did Love Rivers Lost. That was a lot of fun. I got to work with Carrie Hunter. She actually had a bigger part and then stepped down to help out Virginia because I forget what happened. We lost one of the actors or something like that. That was a weird show. Like we would lose actors and then we'd lose another actor and it was like, because Dave Isman, I don't know, there was something weird with him and this other actress, Kelly. Like they had done a show previous to that and then like there was some kind of drama between them and then I think he ended up getting kicked out of this show and then they had to shift things around, but and then my other friend Mike Wallace was briefly in it, but then he had long hair at the time, and said you have to cut your hair, and he's like, "You're not paying me." No, I don't. So he didn't stick around long, but so it ended up being me and Carrie and Greg in this kind of like trio, and we had a blast. Carrie Hunter was very talented and always very very nice. Very nice to me, and I always have nothing but good things to say about her. She's always been very cordial. We're still friends on Facebook too. Like we get along great. There's always been coolness. So I forgot to mention her during the Love Rivers Lost thing, and so I thought I'd bring that back up. So anyway, like I said, the summer went by, and then I got to do Richard III, which was amazing. Like I said, one of my favorite college performances. And that's the thing. I wasn't even like a huge part, but just getting to do that monologue and doing all the sword fighting and stuff like that was just so like, it was great. Like, and it was dramatic role. It was dramatic. It wasn't like, some of the other stuff I'd done was comedic and stuff, but like it was fun to do a dramatic role, because if you do comedy, you can do drama easy. But I mean, some people can. But yeah, I remember like that, and I remember because Brenda got cast as kind of my sidekick. I remember she told Dave she wasn't happy about it, and there was all that. But by the end of that show, we were fine. Oh yeah, speaking of Dave Isman, like I said, great guy. Still friends with him as well on Facebook. Like I said, most people it's like, oh, Facebook. I mean, it's like I don't see like a lot of people live in those states and all that, but yeah, there was this weird situation with Richard III. I didn't mention this when I was talking about it, just because I was kind of skimming through it. But like, Dave had put in like he was supposed to go to a family wedding, I believe is what it was, and he had put it as a conflict on his conflict sheet. And this was like the Friday before we got into Tech Week, if I recall. I think that's what it was. It was like the last Friday before we got into Tech Week. So we weren't in Tech Week yet. And some reason or another, I don't know why Randy didn't know that he had this conflict, but basically he just kind of was like, okay, he's out of the show. Just like 1 week before Tech, and then poor Jeff Szymanowski, who we called Schmo and all that, just happened to be walking through to go to the bathroom. I'm like, hey, Schmo, you want to be in the show? You're in the show. So poor Schmo just got thrown into the show a week before Tech Week. Meanwhile, the show itself is 3 hours because it's a long. Richard III is a very long show unless you make cuts to it. And Randy had already like made some cuts and tweaks and stuff like that. But it's like and we had already been there. We were there till like 2 a.m. going over all this stuff, getting Schmo worked into David's parts and stuff like that. And it was just like, poor Schmo, and God bless him, he pulled it off. But man, it was just like, man, that was just, we were all just like, wow. And like David didn't even find out until like that Monday at school. Like that Randy pulled him and talked to him or whatever, and just told him that he was out of the show. And he was obviously very upset because he had giving this conflict shoot to Christy and all that, and Christy was like, "Oh, I'm swearing, I didn't know." I showed him it, and he should, So I don't know what kind of miscommunication happened there, but yeah, I feel very bad for David though. David was a good actor, and was doing a good job in the show. So I disagreed with, and with all respect to Randy, I disagree with kicking him out for missing. It wasn't like he missed Tech Week itself. It was like the Friday before Tech or whatever. So it's like, I don't know, it's different decisions, lifetimes, regrets, whatever. We all move on, make mistakes. It is what it is. But yeah, I just remember that because it was, But that also ties into my next romantic conquest. Or lack thereof, as I've mentioned before. Kathy Kohler, she was actually reasonably tall, and she had these amazing green eyes. Like it's, a lot of times it's like, sometimes it's like you meet a girl, just being honest as a man, and sometimes it's like, oh, look at her boobs, and look at, but like with her eyes, it was just like, I liked staring into her eyes. Like they were really beautiful eyes and stuff like that. And she was just a very nice person to talk to. So I was kind of trying to get up the courage to be like, okay, I gotta ask this girl out. I'm not gonna do the note thing and learn from that. I'm not gonna do that again. And like I think I was talking to her in a hallway one day, and I saw that she had like a ring on her finger, or maybe a couple rings on her finger. And so I got it in my head, well, if a woman's got a ring on her finger, she must either be married or have a boyfriend or something like that. That's definitely got to be the most logical thing ever. So then I didn't ask her out. I think Doug asked her out a few times, but and she shot him down. But I just remember being like, oh, maybe I did. And then I remember I was at this. There was some kind of arts thing or whatever. It was an outdoor thing, and there was improv. I got to do some improv because Randy would do some improv stuff with us, which I had a good time. I really always enjoyed those improv shows. That actually got me comfortable with improv because when I was in high school, I was like, I don't know what to do. I have to think too much. Which now I'm teaching it, So, anyway, back to me. We were at this thing, and I remember because I'd seen Kathy earlier because I think she was part of the improv thing, and then Christy comes up and says, "Oh, I just ran into Kathy. She's really excited because this guy she thought was cute asked her out," and I'm just like, "Fuck, no, damn it." No. Because I obsessed about the stupid rings. I got into my stupid head that rings must mean she's married or again. And then and then it's like, fuck. And I had to tell Chrissy, I'm like, yeah, I was interested in her. I was thinking about asking her out, and then I got obsessed with the rings, and then I completely fucked it up. So that was obviously, so obviously I didn't ask her out then, because I'm like, oh, well, she's obviously dating this other guy. But there was still interest. I still liked her. I didn't see her again after Richard III. But yeah, I remember after the Richard III, like I said, I wasn't in the show, but there was a show called Spoke Song, which David got to be in that one. Virginia directed it. It was a musical. Before I get to that, there was this guy named Jeremy Lacey. Oh, Jeremy Lacey. Nice enough guy, but he had this kind of thing where he would go in the elevator and scream his lines, and then he got agitated, threatened not to go on or whatever unless Chrissy came and talked to it. It was just a weird thing. It was just everybody was just oh fuck. We would run into people and we'd say his name, and then this one girl in the hallway was just oh god. And like I said, I tried to be nice to the guy. I'm sure he meant well. I don't hold ill will against him or nothing like that, but it was just oh boy, this guy. Oh boy, this guy. But anyway, he was in that show too. But I remember Spoke Song. It was a pretty good show. But I remember my friend Brad was the stage manager on it because he did stage managing, and we'd become pretty good friends and stuff like that. And me and him and Chris would often go out to out to Mexican places and eat and stuff like that, which was a lot of fun. Yeah, I'd say that I had a few friends that were gay in high school, but I would say that he was probably my first real friend that happened to be gay. I would just say friend that happens to be gay. It's really not a big deal to me at all. Be whoever you are, as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, he was really a good friend. But anyway, so we had a fucking blast up in the booth because I was running sound, Christopher was running lights, and Brad was the stage manager. And then Jackie Seals, who was another girl I had sort of a off and on crush on. And I'll tell that story in a minute. I think that was this time. Was it around? I think it was around this time. Might have been. Or was it later? No, it was around this time. I'll tell that story in a minute. But like I would have, much like Tara, like in high school, I would have off and on crushes on her. Like I never ever pursued it. It was never something I was going to pursue because she was a good friend and a sweet person. But like there would be occasional times where like, she's really cute, you know? Or she'd do something that was really cute, you know? But I can remember... specifically, because Doug was on the show too, or he was working backstage or something. I forget what was going on. I can't remember if Doug. Yeah, Doug had to be on the show because he had the scholarship. That's right. So that was the thing. You had to be in like every show or involved in every show in the semester. Which honestly, even though I would have liked to have that scholarship, that would have been a lot to do, and then have to focus on grades too. So I mean, probably a silver lining in the cloud there in general, but. I just remember something. I don't remember how the conversation happened, but backstage or something, I don't know how it got to talk about Doug's Big Bopper. But somehow, I don't know, Jackie said something smart aleck to him, and he, like, showed her the Big Bopper, or she said, show it to me or something, and, like, he showed his Big Bopper. And then she's like, holy crap, and it was it was a funny thing. It wasn't like one of those like sexual assault things. You didn't just whip it out to whip it. It wasn't like one of those things, which is funny. But so I just had to tell that a little bit because it was a funny. It's just like we were all just laughing. Oh boy, we started calling him. He started being called the Big Bopper after that. Because like, well, Doug has won. So I'll tell more about a story that ties into that later. That also ties into 2000, because 2000 was a big year. So anyway, like I said, I didn't see Kathy the rest of the year. Spoke Talking was a lot of fun. Great times at Spoke Song. And then I remember, I do have to get onto some Lois stuff, but we'll get onto that in a minute. Actually, let me get to, before I go on to continue with Kathy, let me talk about some of the Lois stuff. Okay. Like I said, play structure analysis, she was just kind of... Lois had, like, really long white hair and glasses. Like, she always reminded me of the witch from Snow White. And I don't mean that to be mean, but, like, that's literally what she looked like. She also had this tendency to go, like, bingo, bango, bingo, bango. I'm just like, what the fuck are you saying? But I remember the first time I went and got a haircut for Learning Ladies. And, like, I didn't know, like, that it was a big deal to get a haircut. Or the type of haircut I had to get or something like that, or I misconstrued something or whatever. And, like, they end up having to, like, recut my hair and shit like that. And that was the first bad reaction I had with her. And she just, like, chewed me out and all that stuff. And it's like, they would always, like, throw in your face, like, you signed a contract! You're like, okay, it's not a contract that I'm getting paid for, so, Anyway, but that's neither here nor there. But I remember I think it was the second class, because there wasn't really any examples I could think of in play structure analysis where she humiliated me so much. But there was a design for the theater class, and it was very like artistic, like it's designing sets. Not quite stagecraft, where it was more about making the blueprints and all that, but like kind of more artistry of like, here's what we want to set, the colors and all that stuff. I just remember specifically one time we had to do some kind of painting thing or something. I don't remember what it was. Like I said, I'm basically a performer. I like running sound, assistant stage managing, props, things like that. I've been a dresser. Those are all fine. But I'm not a design guy. I can barely draw stick figures. So that's just not how my creative mind works. So it's not like I was like so invested in this class that I wanted to say. But at the same time, I was still trying to make an effort. So anyway, I remember I was at lunch in between classes, before that class, and there was some prop wheelchair that we had, and it was just like everybody would roll around in it just for fun, whatever. Some people were like, ableist, but that's not what it was about. It was just a prop wheelchair, so it wasn't like, mocking someone who has a disability or anything like that. So anyway, and I just happened to be rolling around a corner, and there was Lois outside. I think she was smoking or something like that and talking to a couple of faculty members. And so I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm just going to roll right back over there because as much as I could, I tried to avoid this woman, although she was my advisor for a couple of years before Randy took over. And anyway, so we're in class, and I had painted something blue. And unfortunately, like, Tim Horvath and I think Jonathan on it, they had like basically done a project together. You were supposed to do it separately. They had done a project together, but they also did something blue. So first she's like, "Did you three have a little painting party?" You know, and it's just like, "I did this on my own. I had nothing to do with their little painting party. It was me." But then she's like, she's like, "Well, Adam, perhaps if you weren't messing around in a wheelchair, you would have gotten a better job on your project." You know, and it's just like, first of all, that was on my time. I'm not getting paid here. This is not me. You know, I don't work for you. I'm going to school. You know, and everybody messed around in that wheelchair. So who gives a shit? So that was one of the times that she humiliated me. I think that was my sophomore year. So that was before the Richard III stuff. And then I remember, like, she always felt so passive aggressive and condescending if she would try to compliment. Because it would be like, even when she tried to be nice, there'd be kind of this underlying kind of like, you're below me type of thing. That's just, yeah. I'll get into more stuff with her later. Because, yeah, there's plenty more. The trauma that she caused me. Trauma is fun. Anyway, back to, the end of the semester was fine. I did, like I said, grade-wise, I was doing pretty good. And then we got into, I was disappointed that I didn't get into Wind of the Willows because I really wanted to, you know, be one of the, I think it was the Weasels. Yeah. I really wanted to be one of the Weasels or Badger or something like that. And I didn't get in. I ended up being assistant stage manager, which wasn't bad. I had a good experience on that. It was a good experience for me to work backstage again. Brenda was the stage manager, and we actually got along really well as stage manager and that. So I think whatever kind of mending fences needed to happen between us pretty much got mended there. So that was good. But Kathy was in that show as one of the Weasels. And I remember when we were auditioning ever, she was like, "Oh, I really want to read with you," and all that. Like, super friendly, super nice. And like I said, and it was just like whatever attraction I had to her, Richard III, was just like even more now, you know, because, and it wasn't just like, I'm not one of those who like, she was nice to me, she must want me. It's not like that. I mean, high school, yes. By college, it's like, okay, she's very nice. And we were I did feel like we had a good rapport. And like, I sort of like, you know, wanted to ask her out, but I wasn't sure what the situation was, you know, if she was still seeing that same guy or not. So it was kind of like, maybe I shouldn't, you know. But like I said, that was a good experience. Christy was actually in that show. Like, she didn't do she did acting her freshman year. She mostly did stage managing and stuff like that. That's what she kind of moved into in terms of that. But she would occasionally do a show. And she was Mole, and she was hilarious in that too. And I remember, it's funny too. Because Aaron Smithers, who his brother Donovan would later be in the Such Stupidity, which I'll talk about that another time. But like, Aaron was a good friend of mine. But I remember he like had to do Scrooge after doing Richard III, playing Richard, for kind of his senior exit project, because he was graduating that year, or into the 2000 year. And I just remember he was, you know, I remember like one conversation he's having with Randy, he's like, "Yeah, did you go to do Dickens?" You know, and then he's like, and then he had to be Mr. Toad. So like, I just remember this one time, like, he was actually dating Laura Rausch, who's also a good friend. And then they broke up, and I just remember I was just a stage manager, and I had to go tell people like when we were going on, and I just remember he had this frog hat on, and he's just sitting in his car, just looking like as miserable as fucking possible. And like, I felt bad for him, but it was also the funniest fucking thing I've seen. Just this sad, morose face with this big frog head on him. I mean, it was hard to like not laugh. And I said, I love the guy; he's a good guy. But like, it was just like, oh boy. Now there was another situation that I need to discuss. There was a girl named Laurel, and it's funnily about, remember how I said about people making out next to me? Her and David did that at a party once too. And I'm just like, well, I'm so glad I get to the mood. But anyway, she had a tendency. She had a bit of what do they call it? Like a muffin top, basically, which is okay. Whatever. I don't judge. Whatever. You know, it doesn't matter. But she would also have this tendency to wear these cut-off shirts, basically just showing it right out there, which, okay, hey, nowadays, whatever, be you. Whatever, I don't care. But, like, it's, we're at a party, and I can't remember what I think it was, like, Doug at this time, I think, was pledging a fraternity. And I'll tell more about that in the future, too. But, and so what happened was, oh, damn, 30 minutes already. Anyway, sorry, guys. I promised not to go too long. So anyway, what happened was we were at a party, we were drinking, having a good time, and I was talking to Cameron and Kelly. Cameron was someone I had done Firefly Festival with. He was in Greece with me, so it was good to see him again. And he was also in Wind of the Willows as well. We got along pretty well. I just remember we were all talking to her, and I don't know why I brought it up, but I said something about, like, maybe she should wear shirts that fit. Just some stupid comment. Unfortunately, what I did not know was that her roommate was sitting right there, and then went and told her, and then she came up to me and was like, hey, you work at Myers, right? Yeah. Do you have shirts that can fit? And I'm like, fuck. And I felt really bad. I really did. I didn't mean any, like, it was a stupid thing to say. It was an asshole thing to say. And, I did apologize. We eventually mended fences and all that stuff. But, like, not my proudest moment, especially because at that time, I was still very interested in Kathy, and they were friendly with each other. And I'm like, oh, God. And, I remember I went to that next day, and, like, the fucking prop thing fell on me and shit. So it's like, I was like, oh, God, sympathy, please. Well, I remember Laura Rausch always laughed because I would come into the dressing room. And like I said before, I'm very shy, but I'm also very respectful of women. So other than that time when I talked about the shirt not fitting, so that stings most women, I guess. But anyway, like, where some people who would go there would be like, oh, look at the girls in their bras, I was always very just like, knock on the door, just like slowly peeking, just let 5 minutes, And she said that was really, sweet and all that. So, yeah, I'm like, be a gentleman. That's what I aim to be. Except when I'm criticizing shirts. But anyway, not my finest moment, as I said. But I remember, like, I didn't ask Kathy out then. And I remember it was funny because it was like a Valentine's Day thing. And Doug picked me up. And we had been before, but I'll talk about this in a minute. Doug had picked me up, and he says, we can go to the movies, we can go to this, or we can go to the titty bar, basically. So we went to Deja Vu up in Kalamazoo. Because, it was Valentine's Day, we were both single. Why not? Fuck it. Let's go blow some money on women who aren't going to sleep with us. Or have anything else to do with us after that night. But you know what? You're in college, you're amongst men, you're single. Do what you gotta do. I wouldn't do that anymore, But hey, at the time, sometimes that's what men do. You learn, you live, you grow up, whatever. But yeah, at the time it was fine. So anyway, like I said, we did Flea in Her Ear, and like I said, they played Baptistan. I know we talked a bit about like wanting this other role and all this other stuff, but that did meet Jeff Taylor. Then he was playing. I think he was Italian. But he was really funny. It really stuck out. I'm just mentioning names left and right. Like, it's not like, who the hell are these people? Adam, explain. I'm just trying to stay somewhat on focus. Anyway, that's when I finally asked out Kathy. I went up. I just said, hey, I don't know if you're still seeing anyone, but I always thought you were fun and interesting to talk to, and and she did admit that, like, she was still seeing someone, but she thanked me for asking her out. Like, it was the nicest fucking rejection I think ever fucking gotten. But like, she hugged me and everything. Like, it was super sweet. She was a super sweet girl. And and like I said, she ended up marrying that guy. They had a kid, so it was fate. I can't stand in the way of fate, so I certainly wish her well. But for a long time, before obviously I met my wife, she was always kind of the one that got away. Although I never really had her, but like, in my mind, it was like, well, it was so close. If I just not paid attention to the rings, maybe I could have beaten someone. But you know what? Like I said, sometimes it's just fate. If you believe in that, you don't. Whatever. So anyway, we're finally caught up to where we are in 2000 now. 2000. So 99. Christy had gone and worked the college program at Disney World in Florida. and you basically worked down there for 3 months, and you stayed like in this apartment building, all that stuff, and so that was super cool. Um, and me and her mom went down to visit her and all that, and we're both completely exhausted because we got up at 5 in the morning, and then of course you try to go to sleep, and it's just like we're fully awake now. When you wanted to go to sleep, you couldn't sleep because we're driving around Orlando with 5 lanes of traffic. Um, and we had a great time though, and it was really cool. And like so, the next year when the things came up, other than getting lost on the way back to the airport to get back, I had to stay an extra night. But we had a great time. So anyway, the next year I thought, oh, I'll go to this thing and see if I get in or whatever. And I remember they first like saw me, and I'm 6'5", and they were almost gonna have me be Goofy, but like I was apparently 2 inches too tall. So if I had been 6'3", I could have been Goofy. Gosh, I do a good impression of Goofy. Oh gosh, garbage day. Anyway, so yeah, anyway, I got in there. And my mom was a little worried because I never went to camp or nothing like that. So I never really been away from home on my own. And Chrissy was giving some examples of like, there's a Disney point. You don't point with one, you point with 2 fingers. And there's like all these things. And my mom was just kind of like, she was like, I don't want you to go, and just like, all right, I'm going. Like I was nervous too. It was also the first time I was going to fly. And so of course, like I said, I had put my Big Nasty show that I'd been doing, I put that on hold because obviously I was going to go away for the summer. And so, yeah, I remember the night before I was going to get on the plane to Orlando, I went and saw Final Destination in the theater. And here's this plane blowing up with all these people dying. Boy, was I excited to fly that next day. Oh, no, I had flown with Chrissy's mom the previous year, so it wasn't my first time flying. Strike that, reverse it. But, like, still, getting on a plane the next day after seeing a plane, not the best mind thing there for something I was already nervous about. But I thought, okay, let's do this. So my parents drove me to Chicago and to O'Hare because O'Hare's a mess. And my dad wanted to make sure that, got there. Plus, I didn't have a license at the time, so it wouldn't have mattered. So, yeah, we got there. I got on the flight, and I got to Orlando, and then you just had all this sign in, and you found your apartment and all that. And I remember, like, I found the apartment, and then it was interesting. And it wasn't like, and I don't want to be like, oh, it's a culture shock. But, like, I had 3 black roommates, African-American roommates, what do you want to say, and 2 gay roommates. So I was, like, the minority. Straight white guy here. But, you know what? I adored all of them. They were all great to me, treated me well, treated me like a brother, had so many good times. So it was really not a big deal at all. And then, like I said, and Chris McDaniel was a little bit older than me. He really took me under his wing and all that, and helped me out a lot. So, and then Gary was, we jokingly, like, Gary was my road dog. Like we'd walk the store together a lot and stuff. But that does tie into another girl who I'll get to in a minute. But I remember some of the training. You go on a bus. It was Vista Way Apartments, I believe. I don't think they're there anymore. I think they've torn them down now. Got them staying somewhere else now. But they were really nice apartments. There was a pool like right outside. And the thing is, I remember like a bunch of my buddies in college were all like, well, Disney World is like one of the best places to get laid in the world. So go down there. You got to get So you put that in my head. Meanwhile, I had, to be fair and full disclosure, had not, number one, had a girlfriend. So obviously I haven't had sex either. But having that in my mindset, like, I'm going to show those guys, I'm going to get laid. Like, I have no idea what I'm fucking doing, but I'm going to get laid, sure. But, like, Chris was great about talking to me about that and saying, that's not really, don't even worry about that stuff, man. It's like, you just, if it happens, it happens. But, and he was absolutely right. So I'm kind of glad he talked me out of that thing. But yeah, anyway. So, yeah, the training was pretty good. I remember I overslept for one time. I overslept. Like, I went on the couch and I fell back asleep. And it wasn't a big deal. They just gave you a day off. So, anyway, there were a couple girls that I met periodically, mostly at the pool. You meet people at the pool a lot. And there was this one girl who was kind of attractive, and she was kind of friendly. I didn't really see her after that. And then there was this girl, I think her name was Lisa. and she was pretty nice. And I just remember she invited me to a party. Like, oh, come to an apartment and kick it and stuff like that. And granted, I was still pretty shy, but I'm like, hey, cool, it's because I'm going to a party. And I remember this one guy is just like, so who invited you to the party? And I'm just like, oh, she invited me to the party. Oh, great. Like he didn't want me fucking there. I'm like, oh, fuck you, buddy. Yeah, and I can't remember if it was this time or this party or another party that I went to where I drank like this stuff called swamp juice. Oh god, because it was like Mountain Dew mixed with something, and it was just horror on my stomach. But like, I remember too. Like then there was after her, I'd see her occasionally. I know she smoked, which wasn't a big deal to me at the time, but it was probably one of my favorite thing either. But and then I met this girl named Marianne, who was the same name as my mom, so that would have been kind of weird anyway. But she was really cute and super nice. But the problem is, I didn't see her again after I saw her at the pool that night. I don't think I saw her maybe one other time after that. And I was like, oh, she was cute, But then I centered on a girl. And here's how it happened. We were at a little get-together that was at the complex. And I remember I was kind of dancing a little bit, like the white boy that I am. And I felt like people were laughing at me, And nowadays, I'll just dance like a fool and I don't give a shit. But at that time, I was still, self-conscious and shy and all that stuff. So it's like, these people are mocking me, especially that one guy's attitude at the party. Like, who invited you? Like, fuck you. This girl said, come to a party. I came to a party. It's like, fuck you, buddy. So anyway. I was kind of like subconscious, and like Chris and Gary was like, well, we're going to teach you how to dance a little bit more and, loosen up and stuff like that, not be so stiff and all that. That's one of my biggest things. I always like stiffen up, I still do that a little bit. My shoulders are always just torture. It's like, oh, yeah, my so stiff. That was a lot with my acting a lot of times too. That would be a problem where it's like, hey, you gotta loosen up. Which yoga was helpful for. Anyway, back to me. So they originally went to get this other girl, Jamil, who lived down the hallway. But instead, she wasn't there, so they brought this girl, Amy, who was a roommate. And she was blonde and stuff like that. She had a southern accent because she was from Missouri. And she had been into ballet and had been a dancer and stuff like that. So she, knew what the hell she was doing. So I remember we kind of danced a little bit, together in the apartment. Just kind of a random thing to do. But Chris and Gary were just trying to teach me to dance and loosen up and just kind of they were black guys, so it's kind of just kind of do that kind of chill head nod thing, I look white as hell doing it, but they looked cool. Anyway, so after that, it was nice. She was a cute girl and stuff like that. And, the southern accent was very attractive to me. But I didn't think much of it. And then Gary's like, man, I think she might like you and all that. And so I'm like, nah, I just brush it off. And then it was very much like the Jeremy Manga Charlene suggestion, where I'm at work the next day and I'm thinking about it. I'm like, well, maybe she does like me, huh? Da, da, da. And then I would just kind of I would plot. I'm like, okay, how am I going to approach this? Am I just going to ask her out? Am I going to, And I remember my idea was to give her flowers. And I think I did. I think I sent her flowers. So, okay, once again, we're going back to old tricks. But sent her flowers, and then, I came by the apartment and says, hey, we should hang out sometime. But, I meant, oh, as a group. And it was just this is not a way to smoothly ask a girl out, Adam. You have no skills. But anyway, and that was fine. And then I remember, she was really big into Dopey, the dwarf. And so, her birthday was coming up. Man, I've just met this girl. I haven't known her that long. But, I'm interested and I'm hooked and whatever. Man, the southern accent, there's something about it. But anyway, I went out and bought a keychain Dopey, smaller Dopey, and a $50 big-ass Dopey stuffed animal for her birthday. Why I thought this was a good idea, I should have called myself Dopey. Why I thought this was a good idea, I have no idea why. But anyway, so long story short, too late. One day she's like, she says, "Hey, I'm gonna go get my pictures. You want to walk with me?" I thought, cool. This would be cool. Be alone and talk. And we had a great conversation on the way to Walgreens, and on the way back, we get by the pool, and she says, "Well, I just to let you know, me and my boyfriend were on a break, and we decided to get back together." I'm just like, fuck me. It's like, fuck this shit. But, and she was super nice about it. There was no like bad feelings or nothing like that, but it was just like, fuck. I mean, granted, at the time, how would I have made it work? Missouri, Indiana, not too far away, but, at the time, I just didn't care. I was just like, I just like to meet somebody and, date somebody, for God's sakes. So anyway, like I said, that didn't work out. There'd be a few girls here and there in passing that I thought were cute, but I was just like, I was just kind of like, I'm just done, I've given up hope now, I spent time on this one, I know it's not going to happen, and anyway, but yeah, like I said, I had a great time with Chris and Gary, and God, what was the other? God, it's Gary, it's Judd, and then there was the other Chris, and then Trey, that's right. Because I went to see Shaft with Trey and a couple other girls, because we went and saw the Samuel Jackson Shaft, which also had Christian Bale playing the villain. That was fun. It was cool. You got movie tickets, and I did like this one man show thing, or kind of a little skit or something for this talent show, and I won tickets, free tickets. So me and Chris went and saw Nutty Professor, the Clumps, the second one. We had a good time. It was a lot of fun. We also saw Scary Movie that summer. We saw a lot of movies because there was this big ass theater right downtown Disney, they called it. We saw Tyrese in concert. That was interesting. That was before he was really in movies, so I was like, oh, this is Tyrese, okay. And then I would see him in movies. I'm like, hey, I've seen that guy in concert. But it was cool. They had a lot of different clubs. They like to go to the rap club and stuff. I would go to the rock and roll club sometimes, and I was the only interested in rock and roll, and hey, that was fun. Everybody had a good time. Judd was a riot. He was fun, and Chris was a good guy too. I credit Chris as well for kind of waking me up a little bit, because even though I had some gay friends, I still grew up using the F word. And one time I said it to some punk kid on a commercial or something like that, and he was there, and he says, "Ooh, can you And I apologized right away, and I realized how stupid and insensitive it was. And he was cool about it, wasn't a big deal. But I definitely credit him for waking me up to realizing, yeah, you gotta watch what you say, because it's not nice, People are people at the end of the day. But no, I had a great time with them. Oh, one more funny story about that. I actually had never done laundry before, and my parents came down to see me as well. And my brother. That was fun. There's not a whole lot of ways to talk about that, but I had never done laundry before, and I didn't know that if you put a comforter in with the clothes, it will actually catch the washer on fire. So yeah, that was Chris was laughing about it. I was really upset, like, oh god, I'm gonna have to pay some shit. And they said, oh, it happens, don't worry about it. They were really nice about it, but I was super fucking nervous. Chris was laughing about it. I'm like, shut up. But like, you learn from it. But I can't stop Florida yet. Because Florida was also the inspiration for a character you might have seen on the Adam and Anna show a couple of times with her friend Marcia. The Martha character is based off a real woman named Martha Hoppes, who talked with a Jersey accent and smoked cigarettes, as she called them, cigarettes, talk like Elmer Fudd. She worked at the Casey's hot dog stand, and I worked with her a lot. Nice enough lady, but she would just, the one time I was backstage and I had been working in another part of the parks, and she just says, "Hi, sweetie," and just full on kisses me on the lips. And this is like a woman in her 40s or something like that. I'm in my 20s at this point. I went in wash my face. Now, technically you could say, okay, that was assault. I was just more grossed out, like, oh, wow, whoa. As much as I'd like to get a kiss from a woman, this is not the woman I want a kiss from. And it's inappropriate and all that. So I didn't report her or nothing like that. I mean, she was, like I said, overall, she was harmless. I wasn't traumatized by it beyond just what the fuck? So in a sense, my revenge rather than reporting is to make a character out of her. And that's what I did. And like I said, overall, she stood up for me a couple times and stuff like that with this other guy that was being kind of a dick to me. But, so I appreciate her for that. I just shouldn't have kissed me on the lips. But anyway, Florida came to an end. And obviously I was, down about not getting a girl. But that's okay. So anyway, we got back 2001, and I remember specifically, like, this one's gonna get long, guys. We're already at 50 minutes. We're just gonna go through it. Just gonna go through it. We're going long. Fuck it. Anyway, and I remember, like, we had auditions for Tartuffe, Endgame, and of course Christmas Carol. Now I had come back, and Doug wanted me to pledge his fraternity, which I was kind of so about. I'm like, I don't know, that's not really my thing, but I gave it a shot because he really wanted me to try it. And then, before I get into that though, there was this girl. God, what was her freaking name? How did I forget her name? Oh my God, she's that forgettable. God, what was her name? Shit. Wow, this is gonna drive me nuts. I've got it written down somewhere. I'm sure. I've written this on Facebook and MySpace before. This whole storyline of me getting rejected. Anyway, not important. That yes, whatever her name is, who cares? Anyway, like, I was interested in her, like, right away because I was just like, I was just bitter about the fucking summer. I didn't get a woman, gotta do it. So I remember, like, she asked where some, office was, and I just like, oh yeah, I know where that's at, and like my friends was like, did you hear your ears burning? Because like, oh, he snapped on that shit right away. Vanessa, that's what it was. Vanessa, her name was Vanessa, and she had come from Monaco. I guess she's born in America, but she was living in Monaco. And anyway, we were in this music class together, music for the actor or something like that. And yeah, and I was kind of interested in her, and then I was talking to her and stuff like that at the auditions. And I remember the auditions because I would be missing things. Like, they were looking for me. Chrissy's like, what the hell is that, man? And I was literally pretty much just having a conversation with her and kind of, not really hitting on her, but like, getting interested. I'm like, all right, maybe I got a chance here. So anyway, I was like, I'm going to ask this girl out, goddammit. I'm just going to fucking do it. I do all this stupid stuff with roses and notes and stuff like that. I'm just going to fucking ask this girl out, see what happens. Whatevs, right? So anyway, I get up the courage, and I did get in Tartuffe, but it was a very small part. Monsieur Loyal. This was another Molière thing, so it was a lot of like rhyming, narrative and stuff. And Cameron was in it as well. Randy directed it. I'll talk about this Tartuffe in a minute. But Vanessa, like, I asked her out in the hallway, and she gave me her number. And I'm like, okay, well, and my friend Mike Wallace was going to have a concert or whatever, and he invited me. He says, I'll bring you to the concert, And I said, oh, cool, perfect place to have a date and, get to know people. It's nice and relaxed. Gave me her number, and so Saturday came around, and I was really excited. Like, I'm gonna fucking have a date, goddammit. It's not just a friend prom date, but like an actual date. And so, I called her up or whatever, just to kind of like see, like, when we were gonna meet and all that stuff. And then, like, I called, got no answer. Called, got no answer. Called, got no answer. I'm like, what the fuck? And then, like, she finally calls back and says, oh, I have a friend who's going through some stuff. Is it okay if we reschedule? Which I thought, okay, didn't really think much of it. Okay, whatever. And then, yeah, I ended up hanging out with Chrissy that night and a couple of friends and all that. And then I remember, like, it was a couple days later, like, she didn't seem to talk to me much in class, which was like, okay, this is already a red fucking flag. And so I tried calling her again, or I think she said something about call, So I tried calling her again, and I finally got through to her, and she's like, oh, I was actually just on a phone conversation with my boyfriend. We were on a break, and we just got back together. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? 2 in a fucking row? I found out later from Brad that was a bullshit lie. She just didn't want to go out with me. So I'm like, then just say you're not interested. Why is that so hard? Just say you're not interested. Then I don't waste my time being excited about a date. Why give me your number? Like, it was just like all this like mixed signal shit. Like, just like, if you're not interested, just say you're not interested. No big deal. I've been rejected plenty of times before. I just remember I came to rehearsal that night and just like hit my head against the cam machine, like, damn it. I eventually didn't give myself a concussion, but it was just like, why does this shit always happen to me? So anyway, that obviously went down in flames very quickly, but she was kind of a egomaniac anyway, from what I heard. She was kind of bitchy, so it was probably dodged a bullet anyway. I don't wish her ill will, but I think she went back to Monaco, so hope her life's going good. So anyway, Tartuffe was a thing happening. I just remember they weren't happy with Doug at this point. I think it was partially due to the fraternity stuff, because he was doing a lot with that and maybe losing some focus here and there. And they want, when you're on that damn scholarship, they want you focused all the time on your work. And I guess he didn't do a very good audition or didn't really put a lot of effort in his audition or something, so they didn't cast him in the show, which was a big deal because it's the first show that Doug had not had to be in. And I think they were maybe making him work backstage or something, or he was probation or something. Like, he didn't lose the scholarship, but like he was being punished, I guess. So anyway, that didn't last long. What happened was there was this actor named John Z, and he said that he was going through stuff and needed the night off from rehearsal. Which, okay, Randy's like, all right, whatever, sometimes you have a bad mental health day, whatever. Well, it turns out that he went and saw Rent downtown, which would have been fine, and he probably would have gotten away with it had our lighting technician not also been at that show and seen him there and had to end up telling Randy about this shit. So, let's just say he was kicked out and Doug ended up taking his role. And Randy had been out for sabbatical the previous year, and he had gotten a couple of his people who worked with the high school students. He had gotten a couple of them to come into the program and stuff. Jay Hammer and Lauren Profanis, and I forget, God, what was her name? Was her name Lily? God damn it. See, I lose track of people. There's so many people over the years. I liked Lauren, but she had a boyfriend, so I was like, all right, And then my friend Billy Keeler, he was really cool too. But like, I know Lauren too because I believe she was in Greece as well. So like I said, sometimes you meet people in Firefly and then, hey, they're in college now, cool. So anyway, yeah, so Doug ended up being in the show and all that stuff. And the show didn't go too bad. It was, not my favorite show, but it was fine. And as I said, I was pledging fraternity at this time. Honestly, my reason for fraternity, I was like, maybe I'll meet some girls. Yeah. Anywho, what happened then was, of course, I pledged fraternity for several months. There was a guy from my French class in high school that I got along with. His name was Silly Salt, Asian guy. And he was a good friend of mine, and he was pledging too. So honestly, once I saw him, I'm like, okay, well, I like him. We get along great. But then he ended up bowing out, and I'm like, oh, well, shit. He was kind of my main reason for doing this, besides meeting girls, and for Doug, But like, I was like, okay, and it wasn't bad necessarily. Like, it wasn't any like kind of hazing or nothing like that. It was like I said, it was IUSB. But like, there were definitely some fun times. I'd be invited to parties. All my pledge brothers came to see the play and all that stuff, which is cool. There were some fun parties and some fun things. You got a big brother or something like that, was what they called it. His name was Brian. He was a really nice guy. I liked him and stuff. Sometimes they would just show up though. You're like, all right, you're coming out. Okay. I was just chilling at home, but okay. And anyway, funny enough, Chrissy ended up dating Brian for a little bit, a couple months afterwards. But anyway, it came down to it, and I admit I was kind of half-assing it, to be honest with you. I was sort of interested, but it was like, and Doug even asked me a few times if I was, on the fence, and I'm like, a little bit, but I was trying to, I'm not one of those people, like I said with other things, like I said with the Wizard of Oz, saying, like, that I don't quit. Like, I don't want to, I'm very bad about quitting. Like, I'm just like, all right, I'll just see it through. I'll see it through, by God. So anyway, this other guy, Tony, ended up bowing out. Toby had bowed out. And then it was down to me and Dave Montz. And we finally got to the house, and they were just like, unfortunately, we're just going to end this pledge class. It's just been too many issues here and there. And there was a whole big thing with Tony where he was gay, and there were some brothers who didn't want him in there, and there was a whole big thing there. I don't really know the whole details on it, but it was really awkward because you're supposed to shake up and say, hey, all this stuff, but like, then it's like, oh, don't acknowledge them, but then when you don't acknowledge them, they're like, hey, why aren't you acknowledging me? I'm like, I don't know, I don't know what's going on, but please don't hurt me. Just trying to be a nice guy. So yeah, that ended up not working out. My parents told me later they were happy I didn't. They just, it wasn't anything against, Brian was very nice, but like, it just wasn't something that I was really that into. And I know Doug was, and great. that it worked out for him, and that gave him some semblance of balance and things like that, or family and stuff, and brotherhood. And that's great. You know, if that works, I never had a problem with a fraternity or sorority. If that works out for you, and that, you know, is how you bond, great. I just was never big on having to prove myself as a friend. I do that just by just being myself normally, not going through a bunch of jumping hoops. Just my personal opinion. Nothing against it. Nothing against those guys. Like I said, I don't hold grudges against people for the most part, so whatever. It's all good. But anyway, unfortunately, because of doing all this stuff, I ended up getting a D in this class. So then Adam's back on probation. Yay! At least I didn't lose the scholarship this time. But yeah, I remember too. Oh yeah, with charts. Yeah, I'm up to an hour now. Whatever. We're just gonna go, guys. Fuck it. You know what? We're gonna stop here, and then I'm gonna start again with the second part. So we're gonna stop right there. Stopping right here.